Hi, welcome back. This is episode 4, The Ring of Fire. If water is the ability to move with change, then fire is a force that describes where you're moving and why. It's the moment that team stops just drifting in the currents of competing opinions, unexpected requests, and half-formed priorities, and instead chooses a direction with conviction. Fire is the psychological core of delivery because it deals with something that a lot of organizations are uncomfortable with, the necessity of choosing. And choosing always comes with a cost. It means letting go of something, deprioritizing something else, disappointing someone maybe, or daring to believe that your judgment is strong enough to shape the direction of the work. Fire is not aggressive though, it's not shouting, it's not intensity for the sake of performance. Fire instead is clarity, the kind that recognizes that avoiding a decision is also a decision, but one that's made in the dark rather than with light. Fire is courage, exercised not once but repeatedly in small moments when the team hesitates and someone has to say, this is what matters. There's a particular feeling in the team when fire is missing. A sort of fogginess creeps into every conversation and just suffocates the progress. People debate endlessly because no one is ever able to get to a conclusion. And that's not because they lack ideas, but it's because no one is willing to risk being wrong. You'll hear sentences that trail halfway through because the speaker is trying to soften their stance even before they finish the sentence. Tasks will just drag on because no one's really agreed on the version of the problem they're actually trying to solve. And if you stay in those environments long enough, you'll begin to see how much time and emotional labor is spent avoiding decision. Probably one of the clearest examples I've seen of this is a team that was responsible for a product migration that required tough prioritization and ruthless focus. And what happened with this team is that conversations just became polite suggestions, competing preferences, and very well-intentioned concerns that never really converged into a decision. Everyone was trying to be collaborative, which is great, but there was no direction. And the team eventually came to a breaking point where their inability to decide became more stressful than the outcome of any particular decision. They weren't blocked by complexity, they were blocked by hesitation. So fire, when understood correctly, is not about forcing decisions, it's about enabling them. It's the energy that helps the team transcend the fear of being wrong long enough to move forward. Fire gives shape to water's adaptability. Without it, the team simply flows in whatever direction the external pressures will force them to flow. Fire stabilises that motion by giving it a certain intent. That's why fire is not the domain of the loudest voice in the room. Real fire doesn't need volume. It needs presence. It needs someone who can speak plainly when the moment requires it without dressing the truth in caveats and apologies and over explanations. It needs someone to say, this is the path we're going on. And not because they enjoy the control and the power, but because they understand that clarity is a service to the team. Organizations really struggle with fire because making decisions exposes you. It creates accountability. It forces teams and leaders to declare a position in the world where ambiguity is far safer. Many leaders will fear fire because they imagine choosing a path means committing to it forever, rather than committing to it long enough to learn something. Fire is not meant to lock you in. It's simply meant to break any stalemate so that the water can continue to flow. There's also a sort of interpersonal fear, the worry that saying this matters more than that will upset someone or will damage a relationship. But really, indecisiveness causes much more damage. Teams don't thrive in environments where everything is treated as equally important. Equal importance means equal neglect. The absence of fire often masquerades as harmony, where in reality, it's actually a slow erosion of trust, disguised as harmony. People aren't avoiding confrontation, they're avoiding responsibility. And without responsibility, there can't be any progress. Fire is also intelligent in how it interacts with other rings. It can draw stability from Earth. A team that knows its foundations can make bolder claims. It gains flexibility from water. Decisions can be adjusted as new insights emerge. And it's tempered by wind. The awareness ensures that courage does not become arrogance. And through all this, it creates a space for void. Decisions open pathways for deeper thinking and discovery. So fire is not a standalone discipline, it's a focusing lens for everything else. Fire thrives in relationships where clarity is seen as kindness and not a threat. I've seen teams transform, not because someone imposed authority, but because someone modeled courage delicately, owning the decisions, explaining their reasons transparently, and inviting others to process rather than imposing it on them. Fire spreads when people feel they won't be punished for being decisive. Once it spreads, the team's energy becomes noticeable. Meetings often become shorter, avoidance evaporates, and confidence and confusion dissolves. Progress accelerates in a way that feels clean rather than pressured. Fire is contagious, but fire alone can't sustain a team. A team that is decisive without being perceptive becomes a team that moves with conviction, but in the wrong direction. Decision making without awareness is simply confidence detached from reality. And that's why the next ring, wind, is so essential. Wind is the subtle art of reading a room, sensing what's being said, detecting early signs of risk and misalignment, and noticing the patterns that others overlook. So if fire is giving direction, wind is the insight. If fire chooses the path, wind sees the terrain. In the next episode, we're going to explore wind. This is the ring that allows leaders to see the invisible, sense the unspoken, navigate the ambiguity with a kind of awareness that feels almost intuitive. If earth is the ground, water is the movement, fire is the direction, then wind is the perception that shapes the three of those. Make sure you press like, press subscribe, and I'll see you in episode 5.